So, Vincent, I was so glad to see your name on the list of people that was interested in a coaching relationship. And I'm wondering what was on your mind when you signed up for coaching?
Well, it seemed a way to help me in my work. I like getting good at what I'm doing, and I've never been a supervisor before. I have 7 people in my team, and I thought maybe you can give me some hints, help me, maybe give me ideas on how to be a better supervisor.
So, one of the things that I do is to go through a list of questions that I ask in the beginning stage of any coaching relationship that I have. So, if it's okay with you, I will do that. And I want to tell you before I do it that the reason behind it is to find out from you what really makes you the person that you are and what strengths you bring to this relationship that we might apply to this supervisory role that you care about.
Okay.
All right. So the first question is to describe to me some peak experience in your life. It doesn't have to be a work experience. It could be anything that jumps out at you as something that was really meaningful to you.
I would say the age ride was very meaningful to me. I cycled from San Francisco to Los Angeles with a friend of mine, and I would say that was a peak experience. It took me all year preparing for it. I'd never ridden that far on a bicycle. It required fundraising for the AIDS Foundation. And it was a peak experience because my father was there too. My father volunteered as a sweep. So he drove my truck all the way down and he followed us and he camped with me. And I cycled with a friend, a Dutch friend of mine. And I got very close to my dad, and I learned a lot about the people that were on the ride that were doing it for different reasons. And it was just amazing to make it to Los Angeles and have a parade coming in and having completed such a long distance. And it tied everything together.
When I look at your face and your eyes, I can tell that there were several things about that were really important to you. Can you pick out some of the things that seem most meaningful to you or most important, or display your strengths in some way?
Well, if you say most important, I think was the moment where my dad, exhausted from a day on the road, sat down with me after dinner and just opened up. It was just so nice to just sit with him, and I mean he was emotional about, being there. He was emotional about being with me, being on the road. We hadn't done something that intense for a long time. And just sitting out there, I think it was Santa Barbara, and in the area of Santa Barbara, there's a lake there near Solvang, and we were sitting next to the lake. And him just talking about how he so appreciated the fact that I would ride 500-600 miles on my bicycle to raise money and for us to be together. Just that moment being together, which we've had a couple of times in our lives, but I guess that was like the experience that stands out from that moment.
So I hear a few more things that I want to check out.
Yeah.
One is the physical strength and persistence.
Right.
To train and ride for that distance.
Right.
The friendship element, the intimacy, both with your dad and your friend, the friend that you rode with.
Right.
And finally, the kind of stepping out into fundraising. I don't know if that was a new thing for you.
It was new. I'd never done that before.
So really asking for other people to support your commitment seems important to me. And that sort of indicates or leads me to ask you about the values that are most important to you. So that might be a value at work, but it also could be a value in life. Are there things that a boundary beyond which you will not cross in any area of your life?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how to answer it, but what came up in my mind was the value that I have of completing something from the beginning to the end, even though it's hard physically or emotionally or intellectually. But to start something, make a commitment, like the age ride, but also in work. I take on a new job or being a supervisor of this team, and then going and following through regardless of what comes in my way and being focused on that goal, which is, in this case, was to raise money, which I'd never done, and learn how to do that and learn how to ask somebody for money, and then cycle for hours and hours and complete a 100-mile day and do that 7 times in a row. Yeah.
So there's a value in persistence towards a goal.
Yes.
And a willingness, it seems to me, to learn new things in pursuit of that goal.
Yes.
And that may be important in this supervisory role as well, because you, as you tell me, you are willing to learn how to be a good supervisor. You may already have the seeds or be one, but it seems to me that you really want to be conscious about that.
Yes. And I like helping other people. So in the age ride, the idea that I could actually help the research towards medicine in the case of AIDS is meaningful to me too. That's in my work too. I work in a pharmaceutical company, and I don't work there just because there's money to be made. I like the idea that we can come up with a medicine that can help people. And my team is just a small part of it, but I'd like to play a part in that process of bringing something to other people that can help them.
That's great. That gives us a really good place to start. The last question that I'm curious about is, you've come to me because, as you state, you want to be sure that you are a good supervisor. Not that you aren't now, but you want to be sure that you're a good supervisor. Is there anything else that you want to be different or better in your life?
Well, my study and my work takes up my whole life. It is my life. And I have brothers and sisters, and they have all families, and they don't work as focused and hard as I do. And I spend the weekends with them. We play, we go with the kids to the playground, and I would love that. I would love to have a family. But I just haven't been in a relationship for a long time. I have a lot of good friends. I meet people all the time, but I work hard. Mm-hmm. And so that's one thing that is something I hope for. That's still something that I think is going to come when it's time.
Great. At the end of each session, what I'd like to do is ask you to review or to just say what's been important about the session. And then I'd like together to think about what you should be or what you might be experimenting with in relationship to your supervisory role, and maybe also in relationship to this thing that feels like it's missing from your life. So what have you thought about during this session?
Well, it was great to recount something that was a peak experience, and I'm thinking in my work, I thrive to have that same intensity of creating a peak experience. And as a supervisor, I struggle sometimes because there's politics and people have feelings, and I can say something as a joke which can be interpreted as serious, and I see people get upset, and we all work under immense pressure because the current batch that we're working on is getting really close to FDA approval. So everybody's under tension, and so I want it to be a fun experience too for everybody. I want everybody to feel that they're part of it in the team, but that they're also learning with me, and that they're also feeling that they're nurtured by me, because that's what I expect from my supervisors that I liked. So does that answer?
Yeah. So at the end of each session, I'll either make a suggestion, or you might have a suggestion of something that you would want to do between now and the next time we see each other. And I think of two things. The first seems more critical to me now, and that is to be sure in this time when there is a lot of stress and when you're really needing to make sure that your team is operating at high efficiency, that you notice yourself. And that's often what I ask people to do after the first session. And by noticing yourself, I mean, notice what seems to work better with your team. If you normally have a staff meeting once a week, for instance, or if you normally set expectations at the beginning of time period when people are going to be working on the testing, that you notice how people react in the moment, but you also notice how effectively that expectation is executed. And the second thing I suggest is that you think about environments in which you might meet someone, not that you're going to marry and have children next week, but that you might meet someone who you'd like to go to the movies with, or you'd like to bike with, or you'd like to do whatever it is that you like to do together.
Mm-hmm.
How do those two things sound to you?
Sounds good. So to review what you said, to see if I understand it. So you're saying to pay more attention to myself at work, and also at my team, to see how they respond in the moment and how effective it is what we're already doing. Is that what you're saying?
It sounds to me like when you say that back to me, that there's something more that you're wanting to try. Maybe you're not having a regular meeting with your team and you want to have a regular meeting with your team. Maybe you're wanting to be looking at books on leadership, or material on leadership, or videotapes on leadership or supervision. I'm trying to tease out what it is.
Well, I think what I want is, I want to figure out a way of being nurturing to my team when they're under stress. Mm-hmm. And I want to avoid hurting feelings if I'm just in a rush and I don't want to put up with any mistakes. And I can be very kind of short with people. And like yesterday, I said something to one of my techs, and I could tell his feelings were hurt. And I felt really bad after, because I was just really pointing out all his mistakes. I just don't want mistakes. And if I see mistakes, I call them, and it's not personal. And so I want to make that clear, that you can make mistakes, but if I find them, I'm going to point them out and I want you to correct them. And it's not because I don't like you and I don't try to hurt your feelings, but I'm going to point them out. So I'm trying to, how do I give feedback to my team in a positive manner so they don't take it personally as an insult? Because people do take things as an insult if you point out mistakes they make.
Maybe particularly when they're tired and under
Exactly,
pressure.
and I want to do that in a nurturing way, like a father or a mother would do, and make you feel good.
I want to suggest two things. One, when we're under pressure, we all say things in a short manner, perhaps.
Right.
So perhaps one thing that you might think about is, I talked about laying out expectations, is to lay that expectation out too, is to say, look, we are where we are under stress. There's only a certain time period in which we have to make sure that this drug is ready to go to market. And I'm going to get tired too. And I may say something to you that sounds unpleasant or unfair. And I want to say ahead of time that that's not personal. It may have as much to do with my stress level as it has to do with what you're doing, and that I want this to be done well. I want us all to perform well. And you might also do the flip side of that, which is to tell them what they are doing well. I know you're all getting here early.
Right.
I know you're all working late. I know that you're all feeling the pressure and wanting to respond effectively. So to give them both the good news and the bad news ahead of time.
Yeah, that's great.
So you want to try that on for a week or so?
Mm-hmm.
Great. And how about the other bit about just thinking about environments or noticing environments where there might be a possible climate to meet a person?
The first thing that popped in my mind was the climbing gym. I rock climb and I try to do that efficiently, so I usually do it by myself, I boulder. But I do meet people when I climb in the gym. And one of my best friends married somebody who he met in the gym. So that stood out as a hint, like I need to be more open to that.
Yeah.
Because I tend to just climb with the people I know and just be in and out. But oftentimes people introduce me to their friends while we're in the gym. And I usually am quick and out.
So what I would like is for you to plan to be open in those environments. So when you get out of your car, when you get off your bike, I would like you to think, I'm going to be open to whoever talks to me today in the climbing gym. And just see what happens. So does that seem like a fit?
Yeah, no, that totally came to mind. I think that is a great place to start.
So I hear that there are three things in our plan for the next 2 weeks. One is that you're going to set expectations before your team goes to work.
Right.
And that you're going to notice what they are doing well as warning them about what might not go so well and how you might react in a way that indicates pressure, not a personal attack. And the second thing you're going to do is to be open to experiencing new people in a particular environment. And I think that's a good place to end this session. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.